stopping you from buying rentals, from getting more rentals, from getting started? The purpose of my content is to help the average individual realize that you can reach financial freedom, make work completely optional in 10 years or less, even if you're not starting from the best position. I work with a lot of people, and I've seen the entire spectrum from I'm just starting to think about my finances to I own several rentals. And this trap is a version of analysis paralysis, but this can hit at any point in your investing, starting, halfway through, reaching financial freedom. This can actually stop you from doing that, even though you've already actually done it. The idea is, when it comes to investing, a lot of people think I need to be confident in order to take action. And so let's follow the logic train of what gives us confidence. And there's 4 words that do this for you. Confidence comes from competence. So the biggest trap that keeps stopping people in their tracks is they develop the competence, and logically it says, go to the next step. So if you've done the work, you've learned how to save. Remember, saving doesn't mean spending less. It means increasing your income. This can be overtime. This can be learning a skill or getting a certificate to make you more attractive to your employer to get a promotion or a pay raise. This can be changing companies for a bigger pay raise than that cost of living raise that you're going to get. It could be starting and growing a side hustle, or with the point of rentals, acquiring cash flowing assets that increase your income. Combined with don't spend more. If you've learned how to save and you've started to pay attention to your finances and you have that under control, doesn't it make sense logically to then look at your credit score? Right? If you've figured out how to acquire money, eventually you're going to want to put it to work. And even if you're not going to buy investments and you're just going to buy a house to live in, which to me is not an investment, but better interest rates, better loan options happens with that better credit score. Better interest rates on things like a car loan. Or if you start a business, a small business loan can be impacted by your credit score. Even if you get into rentals and you don't do conventional loans, you can go with DSCR loans, debt service coverage ratio loans. Your credit score is still a factor, even though they don't look at your work history, salary, debt to income ratio, income. They are going to look at your credit score. So there are people who learn how to save logically. Let me look at my credit score. Once you've looked at your credit score and you start to improve that, the next step in real estate is to talk to lenders. This is not when you go talk to an agent. You go talk to a lender and you find out what your options are. Sometimes it might be you have to go with a DSCR loan, your salary, your debt to income ratio, your change in careers, or all of that for me. Because when I started, I was 40, a single parent with 3 kids, laid off from law enforcement because of the 2008 housing crash, which caused a recession, which caused law enforcement agencies to lay people off because whenever there's a recession, there's no more crime and we don't need cops anymore. I started teaching at a CDL school, making $17 an hour, found out about $89,000 in bad debt in my name I didn't know existed until the divorce. So all of those things were impacting me. And if I didn't talk to a lender, I wouldn't have known that there are other options, like moving into an apartment and renting my house out for 2 years to get rental income on my tax returns to fix my debt to income problem, and then buying a duplex, living in one side so that the rental income of the other unit could help me buy that property. The confidence comes from the competence in the skills that you're learning. So we learn how to save, we work on credit, then we talk to a lender to find out what our options are. There are people that have done all of those things, and they go to the next step. They educate themselves on YouTube. They learn a market. They pick an asset class, small multifamily, single family house with an ADU, mobile home parks, BRRRR method, flipping, wholesaling, whatever strategy they've picked, they're now doing the work to study the market, but the trap is still going to trip them. Learning a market, studying that market, and then adjusting your strategy to the market. Mine had to be changed. Originally, I wanted to buy single family houses, live in it for 1 or 2 years, save up a down payment and buy another one, and do that over the next 10 years and acquire a property every couple of years. And in 10 years, have 5 rental properties. In my area, single family houses don't cash flow. So I had to move to small multifamily because I don't force my strategy. I study my market and I try to apply my strategy. And if it doesn't work, I make adjustments. Imagine doing all of that learning how to save, even when you're not making a lot and you have a bad debt to income ratio, and working on your credit score, getting your credit score to where you're going to have the best loan options, talking to a lender to find out what to do, learning your market, studying your strategy, and then talking to real estate agents to get your auto searches set up. So there are people who are in this trap that might never get a rental or might never get the next rental because of this. And there's actually a question somebody asked that I'll use to kind of prove that even if you have some rentals, this trap can happen to you. The not taking action when it makes sense trap. You get your auto searches set up from your agents. I recommend using at least 3. Some people work with just 1, but I have the best luck working with at least 3. So I have auto searches coming up. And then we learn the competence level of the skill that we need to be confident to take action. We run the numbers. And the best way for me to tell you how to run the numbers on a rental is to find an investor who has a portfolio of several or more rentals and ask them if you can run the numbers to figure out what the cash flow is on their properties. They don't have to tell you their exact numbers, but you run the numbers on a rental that one of your acquaintances or friends owns, or somebody that you meet in a local REI meetup. You run the numbers and then just ask them, here's what I think you're making. How close am I? And maybe that investor can point out something that you're missing in the market you're looking at. And we do that over and over and over. We do the work. We look at deals. Imagine doing all of that work, learning the competency that it takes to be confident to go to the next level. Saving, credit, lender, strategy, agents, do the work. Some people call it analysis paralysis, but this can happen at any point in time. And the question that made me think of this was, in a Facebook group for the BiggerPockets forums, somebody said something very similar to, I currently own 2 rentals. How did you guys acquire more? Because owning more mortgages scares me. This is somebody who has a couple of rentals. They've done the work to learn what they're going to make. They know their cash flow. They have the experience. But the idea of more mortgages is going to stop them in their tracks. It is very easy to think of a reason to not take action. What if prices drop? What if interest rates go up? What if interest rates go down? What if there's a flood of inventory from the shadow inventory people talk about, from the silver tsunami of baby boomers retiring? What if? All of the what if fears will stop you in your tracks. I used to run a martial arts studio in California, literally closed down because of insurance problems. And in the dojo, anybody was able to ask a question about any kata, stance, defensive tactic that we were going over, as long as the question didn't start with what if. Because there's no limit to the number of what ifs that there are. You are going to be afraid. You mitigate that fear by taking the steps, building the base, gaining the competence to be confident to go to the next level. There are some people who don't do any of the steps and they just reach out to a real estate agent because they know somebody who's a friend or a cousin and they say, hey, send me an auto search of properties to look at. This is somebody who hasn't learned how to save, doesn't probably know what their credit score is, has no idea what their lending options are. Your agent will thank you if you come to them and say, I've already spoken to a lender, here's my options. My goal with this video is to get you to think of what stage are you in and what is the next stage for you. And don't let the trap of inaction stop you. Once you have the confidence to be confident, it makes sense to do the next thing. Once you've been studying your market and you've been looking at deals over and over and over, and you've talked to other investors to compare notes on how your numbers look on rent owners, assets that they own, or investors in your local REI meetup who will compare their notes with you, it will make sense to make offers on properties. There are 2 types of goals that people set, especially at this time of year, beginning of 2024, when this video is being made. Hello, Futureland, if you're watching me. Outcome and output. These are 2 separate categories. At the beginning of the year, a lot of people say, this year I want to own a rental property. That's an outcome goal. If you do an output goal, it is, I want to look at least 2 deals every single day. You control output. You can't control outcome unless you do things that are really stupid, like lower your standards. Decide to pay more cash to create cash flow on an alligator, to offer over asking on a deal that was already at a bad price. You don't control outcome, you control output. Are you learning how to save? Can you spend less? Can you find ways to make more? The output of ask for overtime, or the output of changing companies for a raise, this you have control of. Will you look at your credit score? Don't set a goal of I want a higher credit score. Set a goal of doing the things that makes your credit score go up. Will you contact your credit card companies, ask for an increase to the limit on your card, but not spend more money to keep your credit utilization down? Will you set up auto payments to avoid even the chance of having a late payment, which can stick on your credit for up to 7 years? The outcome of I want a lender to tell me that I can buy a house, you don't control. But the input of how many lenders am I going to talk to find out what my options are? Because while lenders do work in the same industry, each individual person that you're going to talk to at an agency or a brokerage that does lending will have a different knowledge base to help you from. How many agents will you have set up auto searches? You cannot control the outcome of I want my auto searches to send me a good deal. But you can control the output of I want to contact at least 3 agents that set up auto searches so I can filter out the ones that don't seem to help and look for the agents that are good. Don't fall into the trap of not taking action. The way to avoid this trap is to learn the steps to accomplish what you're trying to, whether it's finances, relationship, parenting, doesn't matter. Plan out the steps and make sure you get competent at each step, so that gives you the confidence to go to the next one. Ultimately, one of those steps is to take action. This was a nice short live stream on a random Saturday. If you want your questions answered during a live stream from an investor who reached financial freedom and made work completely optional because I'm super lazy, every Tuesday at 4 p.m. Pacific, I do a live stream that lasts a couple of hours where I answer those questions. I hope this video at least made you think. Until my next video, thanks for coming to my Dion Talk.